sing at the same time. That's just an excuse. I should have done a better job. This morning, we're going to continue our look into the book of 1 John. And this is something that we've heard for quite a while. In the United States, Nike's slogan, just do it. Just do it. And I think that we are at a point in America, we're at a point in Christianity, we're at a point in the church where it's about time we listen to that advice. Just do it. Just do what you're supposed to do. That's what my coach used to tell me all the time in football. He said, if you do the wrong assignment, that really doesn't matter. Just be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. And then everything else will work out. But if the last few months, I guess back since March, have taught us anything, it's taught us to just stop talking about Christianity and do Christianity. Don't just talk about or go to church, but be the church. You know, I really think, and if you had access to the internet, you heard me say this a few times when this all started. You know, we've gotten so used to, and I hate to even use the word, but I guess it applies, our ritualistic view of Christianity. You know, our Christianity was equated with coming to church on Sunday, singing the same songs on Sunday, saying the same prayers at the same time on Sunday, listening to the same preacher say the same thing and tell the same stories, and it either made us feel good or it made us feel bad. But that was Christianity. You know, I go to church on Sundays, and God said, you know what, I'm tired of that. You're not going to be able to go to church anymore on Sundays. Let's see what Christianity really looks like. It was tough. It was really tough. For the fact that one of the biggest things, and that's what the book of 1 John talks about, is our Christianity has to do with how we interact with other people. And for a while there, we could not interact with other people. So what does it look like? And this passage that we're going to read this morning is really kind of blunt. It's kind of in your face. Some of these words aren't easy to hear, but I think that if you look at these and look and not really read between the lines and read exactly what it says, you'll see what Christianity is really supposed to look like. It says, dear children, starting in verse 7 of 1 John chapter 3, it says, dear children, do not let anyone lead you astray. He who does what is right is righteous just as he is righteous. He who does what is sinful is of the devil, because the devil has been sinning from the beginning. The reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the devil's work. Will continue to sin because God's seeds remain in him. He cannot go on sinning because he has been born of God. This is how we know who the children of God are and who the children of the devil are. Anyone who does not do what is right is not a child of God, nor is anyone who does not love his brother. It said a lot of stuff in there. But you know what it didn't say? It didn't say anything about singing a particular song. It didn't say anything about praying a particular prayer. It did not say anything about putting your tithe in the offering plate, which is, you know, it's important. It didn't say anything about listening to some guy get up and bumble his way through telling a few stories and reciting a few passages. It didn't say anything about that. It says, if you're a Christian, this is how you're going to be. If you're a born-again believer, this is how you're going to be. If you're a child of God, this is how you're going to be. And I want to take a look at those things that he talks about. And at the end of this, I hope that we shouldn't have to ask the question, what does it mean to be a Christian? We are not going to equate our Christianity with coming to church on Sunday, which is a good thing, and I'm so glad that we're able to be back here. I saw that, you know, some people still aren't able to go back to church. I saw Corbett Reed post this morning that they were able to go back to church for the first time. I know that Billy Wallace and them, they're having church outside. Bless them that they can do that. I think if we had church outside here, I might faint. Doesn't mean I wouldn't try. Y'all just may have to revive me, but going to talk about this morning what it looks like to just do. Just be a Christian. The first thing I think that we can point out in verse 7 is that we need to stay focused. What does he say? He says, "Dear children, do not let anyone lead you astray. The one who does what is righteous just as he, being God, Jesus, is righteous." Would you agree if I said there are far too many distractions in this world? There are quite a few distractions. Television, that's a big distraction. Our tablets, our children nowadays, they are learning how to use iPhones and tablets before they learn how to walk. It is a big distraction. This past couple of weeks, there have been some distractions in the news. You know, now they're calling for Paw Patrol to be pulled off of TV because it paints one of the characters as a police dog, and it paints the police in good light, so we need to pull that off the air. Also saw where Elmer Fudd and Yosemite Sam, they're no longer going to be able to tote guns on the Looney Tunes. Give me a break. Those are distractions. Good distractions, bad distractions. You know, sometimes I believe we even get distracted by what other people do. Anybody ever got distracted by something? Boy, yesterday had a bit of a weak moment. And somebody distracted me because of what they were doing. Number one, and this doesn't have to do with that, but number one, anybody ever realize that you're the only one that knows how to drive properly? Ever figure that out? Man, nobody drives. Crazy. But yesterday, this didn't have to do with driving, but yesterday, I went to Popeye's Chicken. Okay? Anybody know what they have at Popeye's? It's chicken, right? Since the day that Popeye's opened, there's been chicken at Popeye's. And this guy in front of me, and this happens all the time. It used to happen a lot when the dining room was open and you could go in there, but it surprised me that it would happen in the drive-thru. And I'll tell you, this guy was from Natchez, and this is how much I paid attention. I knew he was from Natchez because his truck said that he bought it at Lakeside Ford, but he had Mississippi tags, so he had to be from Natchez. That's how much I paid attention to this guy. He was in the drive-thru with his arm out the window and his head out the window, and for 5 minutes, this is what he did. Says, "Anita, I wonder what he's going to order. I bet it's chicken." You have two choices at Popeye's, regular or spicy. That's the only choice you have to make, whether you want regular or spicy. I knew what I wanted when I drove into the parking lot. You know what it was? Chicken. That's what I wanted. But for 5 minutes, this is what we had. And then it gets better. He starts to order, and that took another 5 minutes. And then obviously, something that, you talk about a distraction. I said, Lord, if I wasn't about to enjoy some of this deliciousness, I would be angry. But that is a distraction. So the devil can use distractions to take off of what is most important. In Romans chapter 12, it says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world." That would be those distractions, whatever it is. The pattern of the world. The devil uses things in the world as a distraction. He distracted Eve from what God said. God said, "If you eat this, you're going to die." The devil says, "Surely you will not die. God knows that you're going to be like him if you eat this." That he was distracted from what God said. He says, "But be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and prove what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." So be transformed. Don't focus on the distractions. Don't conform to the pattern of the world, because that's the pattern of this world. The distractions the devil likes to throw at you, and there's so many of them. There's so many things out there that we use to take our mind off of our own life. That's why I believe that during the pandemic, the liquor stores were considered essential businesses. Right. We had to take our mind off of what was going on in this world. That's why people eat so much food. That's why people get into these terrible relationships. That's why people do all this stuff, is to take our minds off of our miserable lives. But here's the thing, your life doesn't have to be miserable, because what does he say? Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Take all that miserable stuff and give it over to God. Well, how do you do that? It's easier said than done. In Colossians, it says, set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. You see, if we wallow, we like to do that. Louisiana call it waller. If we like to waller in the mud, guess what? We're going to keep wallowing in the mud. But if you set your minds on things above, as he said, why? Why? In verse 7, this is what he said. He who does what is right is righteous. You see, that's why we set our minds on things above. It's for righteousness. Matthew 6. Here comes those distractions again. So don't worry, saying, what shall we eat? What shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? And those aren't necessarily bad distractions, right? You got to eat if you're going to live any amount of time at all. You got to eat. You got to drink. You got to wear clothes when it's cold outside or you'll freeze to death. So those aren't necessarily bad distractions. But he says for the pagans, run after all these things. Your Heavenly Father knows that you need them. So what he's saying is, don't really worry about it because God's got this. And here's why. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. All these distractions are going to take care of themselves. You see, there's a difference between being concerned about something and being worried about something. You see, concern means that, I better go out and get a job and get some money, otherwise me and my family, we're not going to be able to eat. That's concern. Being worried is laying awake at night thinking, you know what? I just hope that I don't get fired. I hope that, and you may have not even done anything wrong. I just hope that this doesn't happen. I hope that this doesn't happen. And I hope that this doesn't happen. That's worry. Worry is concern on steroids is what it is. Tony Evans says it's a vehicle like a rocket chariot. It's constantly moving, but it'll never take you anywhere. You see, we got to focus, stay focused on the Lord, because that's where true answers are found. Where's the food going to come from? Where's the shelter going to come from? Lord. That's where true righteousness is found. So we got to stay focused. The next thing he tells us to do is we got to stay pure. No one, and I think this is verse 9, no one who is born of God will continue to sin because God's seed remains in them. We have to stay pure. See, when we're focused on him, he allows us to stay pure. You see, the things of this world, that's what keeps drawing us back into the pit. That pit of despair, that ugliness, that mud that we talk about rolling around. That's the thing that keeps us back in the pit. Matthew chapter 5, one of the Beatitudes says this: blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Obviously, since that's what that says, that blessed are the pure in heart, obviously there is a way to do this, right? Obviously there is a way that we can be pure. Last week we talked about sin and how if we keep on sinning with the villains, and we talked about how from God being pure is impossible. So it's kind of a full circle thing. If we want to see God, we have to be pure in heart. But if we want to be pure in heart, we have to seek God. Does that make sense? If we want to see God, we have to be pure in heart. But if we want to be pure in heart, we have to seek God. Full circle. Case in point. Computers can do amazing things. I know there are a lot of tractors right now that are running around on computers. In fact, we're able to read scripture right now because the computer is telling this screen display the scripture. That's an amazing thing. Computers can do great things. But what would happen if you unplugged the computer? That did happen. We were worried about that. In fact, I printed out all my scripture just in case it happens again. But the power went out on me and Clyde, and those computers were worthless. It wouldn't do anything. In fact, it took about 15 minutes for the internet to come back up. If you pull the plug, if you pull the power, it's just a box. That's all it is. God is our power source. That's where the purity comes from. He is the power source. Just like the computer can do amazing things when it's plugged in, we can do amazing things when we're plugged into God. Psalm 119 says this, starting in verse 9. How can a young person stay on the path of purity? By living according to your word. I seek you with all my heart. Do not let me stray from your commands. I have hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against you. I want you to notice a few things here. There are some active things that are going on in the first couple of verses. Some things that we would say are in the present tense. Stay on the path. That means you're continuing on the path. That's something that's in present tense. Living according to the word. That's something that's in present tense. Seeking you with all my heart. Something that is in present tense. We'll take a look at verse 11. So the first two verses are things that we're actively doing. Things that are in the present tense. What does verse 11 say? I have hidden. That's past tense. The Word of God is where you start. This is where you start. And so in order to be on the path and stay on the path of purity, in order to live according to His Word, we must first have the Word in our hearts and in our minds. You see, people tend to try and live a Christian life of purity by skipping this step altogether. And that's kind of like a house without a foundation. Word. What did Jesus say about the foolish man? He built his house on the sand. And whenever the rains and the winds came and beat upon that house, it fell with a great crash. But the wise man, he built his house on the rock. The winds came, the rains came, they beat against that house, and it stood. See, trying to live the Christian life without first being immersed in the Word is like building a house without a foundation. It's like driving in a car with no air in the tires. There is a Jeep that's sitting on the side of the road. It's been there. It'll be in one part of the road is that on the levee, and then it'll be in another part. I'll give them this. They keep fixing that thing, and it keeps going. But it had a flat tire yesterday. It didn't go very far when there's no air in the tire. The Christian life isn't going to go very far if you don't start with the Word. So we have to stay focused. We have to stay pure. Finally, we have to stay true. When you true up your rifle for deer season, you're making sure that it's going to hit the mark. This is how we know who the children of God are, who the children of the devil are. Anyone who does not do what is right is not God's child, nor is anyone who does not love their brother or sister. That's the mark. That's the standard, if you will. That's what we should measure ourselves by. Not what Max is doing, not what Clyde's doing, not what Cam's doing, but what Jesus said. That's the standard. What it says in here. So like we talked about earlier, we have to know what it says in here. That way we can measure ourselves against that standard. But to me, what this is saying, it's funny Vance brought this up when we were praying before church. What this is telling me is that there has been a line drawn in the sand. There's going to be no sitting on the proverbial fence in the kingdom of God. To be honest with you, I tried it for years. I had one foot in the church, and the rest of me was out in the world. When all honesty, it wasn't a foot, it wasn't even a toe. The whole me was in the world. Knew what the Bible said, knew who Abraham was, knew who Isaac, Jacob, David, knew who Jesus was, knew who Paul was, Peter, all these guys. Knew all the stories, knew all the books of the Bible by the time I was in the second grade. Knew all this stuff. But I just kept trying to have that one foot in church. But in all honesty, I was wholly in the world. Joshua said this. Now fear the Lord and serve Him with all faithfulness. Throw away the gods of your ancestors that your ancestors worshipped beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. You know what those gods are? They were distractions. Moses brought them out of Egypt. Well, God brought them out of Egypt. Moses led them out of Egypt. God brought them out of Egypt. Moses led them out of Egypt. And then he went up on the mountain, and he was going to get some rules for them to live by. He was going to talk to the Lord, and the Lord was going to give him these rules. Well, apparently, Moses was taking too long. And so they said, you know what, Aaron, we're going to bring you all this gold, melt this down, and you create something so that we can turn around and worship it. That was a distraction. The reason is, when they were in Egypt, they were immersed in polytheism. They worshipped everything in Egypt. They worshipped there was a God for this, a God for that, a God for that, and they had gotten used to that. In America, there's a God for everything. There's a God of money. There's a God of self. There's a God of lust. There's a God of fill in the blank, and you see it every day. On social media, you see it every day in the news. You see it every day when you look in the mirror. It's a distraction. Those are the gods that your ancestors worship. Verse 15, but if serving the Lord seems undesirable for you, then choose for yourself this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods of your ancestors serve beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you're living. Here it is. Here's the kicker. If you don't get anything out of today, get this. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Is it just me? Or does it not seem like the world is on fire right now? So much terrible stuff going on. And we'll say, well, it's because of this, or it's because of that. I think we identified it last week. The world has a sin problem. We need to stay true. And we need to draw that line in the sand so people know that where we stand, so that we can be true ambassadors of Christ in this world that is burning. Here's the thing. It's all well and good to have faith when things are all well and good. When things are going good, it's easy to have faith. But when things get tough, kind of like things are tough right now in the United States, when things get tough, take a look at what happened to Job. Clyde and I talked about this morning. Job had it pretty rough, right? And he still had faith. And then we read in the book of Job that all this stuff that happened to him, the devil caused all these things to happen to him. In the beginning, God was the one that brought Job's name up. Did you ever realize that? It said that the devil, or that Satan, went up to God with the angels, and he was sitting there, and God gave him an audience. And God started a conversation. He said, have you considered my servant Job? Could it be that God sicked him on Job? Why would he do that? That's a tough question. That's one we may never know the answer to until we get in front of God and say, God, why'd you do that? You know what else is a tough question? God, why did the churches have to close? Why did the economy have to take a turn like it did? Why did so many people have to lose their jobs? But Job, he never wavered in his faith. Yeah, he had some questions, and he had a conversation with God, but he did not deny him. You see, the reason I think God, and for lack of a better phrase, sicked Satan on him, because he knew Job could take it. The United States was founded and built upon godly men and godly principles, right? The reason these things have happened is because I believe we can take it. And at the end of Job's life, what happened? He was blessed immensely. I think that what's been going on, what's continuing to go on, yeah, it's bad. But if we stand firm and we say, as for me and my household, we're going to serve the Lord, and the blessings are going to be poured out. It's going to be immense. So here's the thing. Whatever you feel Christianity looks like, spelled out in these pages, First, we got to figure out what it looks like, what we believe it looks like, because we have to know what it says. Whatever that is, whatever it looks like, just do it. Just do it. Let's pray. Father God, thank you for this day. Thank you for the fact that we can dig into your word and you can reveal yourself through your word. I pray for all those that are here, those that are unable to be here, that you just be blessing them. Thank you for our time together. And I pray for us now as we head into our communion time. Bless Max and the words that he has to say. In Jesus' name.